The leader of Build One South Africa, Mmusi Maimane, has been doing a lot of interviews recently. I think that is a good thing that I can say about him. I think it is good for politicians to actually start putting themselves out there and telling South Africans what is it exactly that they are bringing in 2024. If you look at Mmusi Maimane believes that he is going to be one of the four options for South African presidency, because recently Mmusi Maimane also did an interview with the Season Pofu Walsh where he also talked about this thing. According to Mmusi Maimane, his only competition, it has to be President Cyril Ramaphosa, Julius Malema, and John Steenhuisen. He says if those three are not going to be chosen to be the president of South Africa, he is going to be that one man who is going to be chosen to be the president of South Africa. So guys, I don't know, what do you think about that? Do you think that there is a chance of Mmusi Maimane actually being a president of South Africa in 2024? What do you think about that? The video I have for you today is from BizNews. I really like Alec Hawk. I like what he's doing. I like the format, and I like the fact that he's also doing balanced interviews. Alec Hawk invited Mmusi Maimane to talk about 2024 and to hear exactly what is it that Build One South Africa is going to bring to the table, and how Mmusi Maimane is planning to actually make his voice heard coming to 2024. Because guys, 2024, it is going to be so interesting, because there are a lot of guys who are making noise right now. You listen to Julius Malema, Fikile Mbalula, Gayton McKenzie, Hemen Mashaba. All of these guys are making a lot of noise going into 2024. So guys, the question is still there. Do you believe that Mmusi Maimane, there's a chance of him actually being the president of South Africa in 2024?
It's interesting how quickly time flies. It's 8 months ago that we were talking in the Johannesburg studio, and you were at the time telling us that you're throwing your hat in the ring to become president of South Africa. It to many people was, but that sounds crazy, and maybe we can touch on that in a moment. But let me just start off with what Wayne Duvenet from OUTA had to say yesterday. He's very concerned about the election in 2024 being free and fair, because he says that the Independent Electoral Commission is being starved of funds. It needs more funds, but in fact its budgets are being cut. Now this is something that doesn't really mean a heck of a lot to many people, but I'm sure...
Yeah, but I think South Africans really need to be worried and concerned coming 2024, because you saw what just happened right now in Zimbabwe. You saw that the president of South Africa congratulated Mnangagwa for winning the elections despite the evidence of election interference and despite the evidence of rigging that took place right there in Zimbabwe. If you remember, there were polling stations in Zimbabwe that didn't have ballot papers. Some polling stations, they didn't open, and people went as far as saying that their lives were threatened there at the polling stations, because there was the videos and the images of these ZANU-PF people with their tables outside the polls taking anyone's ID who gets in there, and people were literally threatened that if you vote for Triple C and not for ZANU-PF, we are going to track you down and we are going to punish you. So a lot of things happened in Zimbabwe, but what was really surprising is the ANC's reaction in all of this. We saw the Secretary General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula, out there. He is celebrating the fact that ZANU-PF and Mnangagwa, they've rigged the elections again. The president of South Africa even released a tweet recently congratulating Mnangagwa for winning the election. This is despite everything. This is despite the fact that the SADC mission that went there to actually check if everything was legit, it said that nothing was... It said that they cannot say that the elections was free and fair. There was a lot of moving pieces that happened right there in Zimbabwe. So I think South Africans really need to be concerned coming 2024, because if you see what happened right there in Zimbabwe, and the fact that the ANC is actually congratulating these people, it is really something to be really concerned about.
Sure, being in the business that you're in, this is very relevant.
Yeah, absolutely, and so great to be with you. I think it's an incredible platform for South Africans, and proud of the work that you are doing at BizNews. And I think since we last spoke, there's been so much that has happened in our country. We were just about to launch Build One South Africa, our political party, and since then we've grown in all 9 provinces. grateful to respond to that. We've recruited over 450 candidates that are standing for elections in some direct form or another. We're raising a membership base that is now, or an activist base, because I believe that everyone who's building South Africa is part of the work that we're doing. And now that's sitting just below 20,000. We want to get it to 100,000 by November. And from our recent poll, we're showing the fact that South Africans are quite enthusiastic about our offer that is hopeful, that stays above what goes on. And I'm enlisting as I go more and more people to build. So I'm confident that to your point about the IEC, 2024 is going to be a very crucial election. And so it is deep.
And again, guys, before I allow Mmusi Maimane to continue, do you believe that if the ANC loses election, do you believe that they will just relinquish power and let the party that won the election actually assume power? Do you believe that the ANC will simply get out of the way? In 2024, if the ANC was to lose power, do you believe that the ANC will simply get out of the way? What do you think about that? Because the same ANC right now is congratulating a guy who assumed power by staging a military coup against his predecessor, the great Robert Mugabe. But now, the same guy rigged the elections. So this guy does not believe in any democratic processes. But right now, the ANC is congratulating him. They are actually thrilled that Mnangagwa won the election. So the ANC is going into the elections next year. So do you think that the ANC, if they were to lose the 2024 election, they will just step aside and let everything go? What do you think about that?
Deeply concerning when you reflect on the fact that the IEC has been underfunded, but also the history of where the IEC's ability to handle elections has become progressively more stressed. And it happens in all democracies. When a liberation movement faces the threat of losing an election, as the ANC does next year, this is going to be a period that we all have to keep a tight eye on what the IEC does. I've always felt that as a Chapter 9 institution, that it reports underneath the Home Affairs puts it at risk. That is a very crucial dilemma that we face, because as budgets are being cut, it is seen as a budget item. Secondly, the IEC has never had an ability to police its own, when people contravene its own regulations. So when a party, in fact, campaigns illegally or does things like that, the IEC doesn't always have that ability because it's not a prosecutorial body, and it relies on other security agencies like policing, etc. So that's crucial. And next year, the election itself, for example, we typically would have 2 ballots if you go into a national election, one for national, one for province. Next year, you'll have 3. So already now, there's a lot of work that has to be done about educating people heading towards an election. There are 2 registration weekends that are coming up in November and February. And so I really do think the IEC has been asked to do more with less, which even if it was the best run institution in the country, that renders it at high risk. So we've got to pay deep attention as all South Africans, because a free and fair election.
And I know that people have been talking about this voter education, but do you think that political parties actually teaching the people about the importance of voting and actually making people aware of the power that they are giving to people whom they are voting for? Do you think that works in the best interest of political parties, for people to know about voting and to know the kind of power that they are giving to people when they put their eggs there on the ballot? Because right now it's almost as if people are not really aware of the kind of a power they are giving to people who they are voting for. And every year before the elections, the political parties, they talk about the voter education. But throughout these 4 years, no one has ever actually took an initiative to go out there and teach people about the importance of voting and what does it mean to vote and what is it that you are doing when you are voting. So do you believe that political parties will teach us about the importance of voting? Do you think they care for us to know about the importance of voting? Because I don't believe that if people knew of the power that they are giving to politicians, people would be out there voting for people. I don't believe that a lot of people would be out there voting if they knew the power that they are giving to some of these people who are contesting elections. And people would know that we voted for you, so we have to take you, we have to hold you accountable. So do you think that it will work in the best interest of political parties to teach people about the importance of voting? Is that a valid question, guys?
It works for everybody, and already there are some massive challenges and headwinds coming up towards 2024.
I'm glad you addressed that in a way that we can all understand, but the point you made there about 3 ballots, not 2, explain that.
Well, first and foremost, typically now next year with the inclusion, or at least after the Constitutional Court judgment that said independents can stand for national elections, you've almost got to create what is called a province to national ballot that includes parties and independents and a national ballot. So that already means voters have to be educated enough to exercise their choices across 2 ballots. And that's going to be an important thing going forward, and a new education. Secondly, I had an extensive meeting with the IEC. Naturally, with more independents coming on board, the length of the ballot paper has now been extended. So printing of all of that has its own new dynamic that comes in. So there are some logistical issues. So next year, the size of boxes that you put your ballot in is going to change. The size of where you vote has to change. So all of those practical organizational issues are coming onto the fore. But also, now when it comes to even counting of votes, now in the room, you are going to have more people. Remember, for everyone who has an invested interest in the election has to be allowed to go and sit and watch how the votes are counted. So that's why, as Build One South Africa, I wanted us to be clear that we set up this political party, invite more people to participate in it, stand and represent their communities, so that we could achieve this. One, hold the IEC accountable as a collective body. That's vital if we're going to get a free and fair election. Secondly, be able to mobilize this activist base of 100,000 people who I want for them to be eyes and ears at every polling station. And maybe if I can abuse this platform, I want to invite you. You might say to yourself, well, I don't know how to contribute to democracy, but the best way you can do is go man a polling station, because when you're there, you can help count, you can make sure that the results are free and fair. And then furthermore, that ultimately when it comes to the integrity of the entire electoral process, from the person arriving at their door to voting to counting, all of that, we've got to be strong to make sure that the IEC's internet systems or IT infrastructure works well, because at the end of the day, we want the will of the people to be a representation or as an outcome. So I'm inviting people here to say, do your bit, sign up, go participate, because this election is going to matter.
This election is going to matter. Me personally, I believe that if the young people don't go out there to vote, I don't think anything's going to change, man. I don't think a lot is going to change in 2024 if young people don't go out there to vote. Because I believe that the young people in South Africa, we've got a deciding vote, man. We can literally pick whoever we want to. Sometimes I just sit back and think, like, just imagine all young people out there in polling stations to vote. Because I don't know why South African youth don't want to vote, man. I don't know why they don't want to vote. You know, every time when it's election season, I get so excited, man. I get so excited. But it is so disappointing to see young people and the fact that they don't want to vote so much. They don't want to take any part in political discourse. They don't want to discuss anything. It's insane, man. So I don't think that a lot is going to change. I don't think a lot is going to change if young people don't go out there to vote. I think people like Mmusi Maimane, Julius Malema should actually use their platform to make sure that they garner as much young people as possible, because those are the deciding factors, man. If you have young people on your side, you are going to win in 2024. You are going to win. You know how majority of old people, they're going to vote for the ANC. The ANC, they're still going to get their couple of millions of votes. They're still going to get their votes, the ANC, because they have their base that is willing to vote. You know, one thing about the people of the ANC, they are not scared of actually going out there and vote for the ANC. The base of the ANC goes and votes, bruh. People can complain on Twitter, people can say whatever they want to say on the internet, but when it comes to voting, people who vote, people who actually are the supporters of the ANC, they go out to vote. They go out to vote. So I don't think people must underestimate ANC coming 2024. It might surprise them, man. The ANC might surprise everyone, because the ANC has that solid base that is refusing to look anyway, that is going to vote for the ANC time and time again. You see all of these guys, the EFF, the Action SA, Build One South Africa, Patriotic Alliance, all of these people, they are fighting for certain numbers here, but the ANC has its own hold here. The ANC has its own base right here.
Steps, and it was also at the last BizNews conference. The same plea was made. Please, just if you want to get involved, become a party agent or a volunteer to be involved and make sure that the votes are correctly counted. On to you and the Build One South Africa movement. You've been under the radar to a large degree. Has this been by design, or has it been because the work that you're doing is not sexy enough for the headlines?
Well, the sort of headline work that we've been doing is obviously when we fight about our plan, and I have put together a plan about how do we keep the lights on. So, as you know, I'm animated about an economy that works, and so if we're going to keep the lights on, we have to do a couple of things. Obviously to find the fix for the 6,000 megawatt deficit that leads us to load shedding. Secondly, make sure that we fix Eskom. I've already reached out to people about a build, own, operate system that can allow people to say, let's introduce safe nuclear, let's introduce technologies that can allow us to augment energy. But along with the more headline work has been taking the government to court in the fight against Eskom. Because actually, I can remember speaking to Advocate Tembeka Tobi, and I said to him, to solve for the 6,000, let's reduce demand. And part of reducing demand, let's use all the roof space in schools, hospitals, and police stations, that on all of those things, that there's an alternative energy that is there. You reduce demand, but you also become more environmentally sustainable. And we won that battle in the court case. I'm still appalled, and appalled is putting it mildly. I'm disturbed by the government that it now wants to challenge that ruling in court, to say, no, we are happy to find generators and all of that for ministers and for whatever government appaches we've got, but we're not willing to do it for citizens. People are dying during load shedding. So I've put up that fight. So that's been one big fight that we've had. We are engaged in another one that speaks effectively, just using courts and lawfare to make sure that, I don't care in some ways, the historical alliances of the ANC with Soviet Union. But I do care that their decisions are impacting the economy of this country. Today, we're talking about a currency that's devaluing. We're speaking about businesses that are struggling. And so we're involved in that work. And even as I'm going now, in the formation of a political party, you've got to do some of the work that we do online, on media, but we've also been on the ground. And this has been, for me, some of the more exciting work. In all 9 provinces, effectively, we've gone out, engaged citizens, engaged communities. So, yeah, that's not the sexy work that maybe ends up in newspapers, etc., but it's important work, because to raise that army to fight, but also to make sure your ideas are things that people speak about at dinner tables, takes more than just being on television. It actually takes people sitting at home saying, what do you think of Mmusi's idea about a national civilian service where young people can spend a year? That's a conversation that people must have at home. So we've spent a lot of time doing that work.
But I think Alex was asking Mmusi Maimane, have you done enough in terms of marketing your brand and making people aware that in 2024 they have an alternative? Because as much as I believe in Mmusi Maimane, I believe in Mmusi Maimane. He's one of the brightest guys out there. But in terms of marketing his own political party and making people aware that they have an alternative in 2024, I know that he believes in his own ideas. I know that he believes in his own groundwork. But I don't think that he has done enough noise of actually making people aware that he is part of all of this. If you look at people like Gayton Mackenzie, Kenukunene, Julius Malema, Hemen Mashamba, all of these people are always out there trying to make noise and making people aware that we have EFF, we have Patriotic Alliance, we have Action SA, but I don't think Mmusi Maimane, personally guys, I don't believe that Mmusi Maimane has done enough in terms of marketing his own political party. I believe that he has done a lot of work, like he says, that is not covered by the media. But going to 2024, he needs to understand that people need to see the things that he do. People need to see him more often. People need to see what is it that Build One South Africa can do. Because if you look at parties like Patriotic Alliance, some people are simply going to vote for Patriotic Alliance because Gayton Mackenzie, it's hard on illegal immigrants. If you look at parties like the DA, they also have their own mandates. You can listen to the ways John Steenhuisen talks. So John Steenhuisen is speaking like a crazy man. If you look at the ANC, everyone has something that they identify themselves with. But when it comes to Build One South Africa, I don't believe that there is that one particular issue that actually, that makes them visible. I don't know. Is it like?
How are you going to become president?
Yeah, in simple numbers, actually, what I'm asking citizens to do is, in many ways, we just need 3 million votes. It's in the grand scheme of numbers. Okay, we know there are more people who are not voting than are voting. We know that of the 12 million people who do vote for the ANC, 5.5 million of them are disillusioned. And ultimately, we also know that next year is a conversation about how do we form a government that involves multiple parties. And I'm comfortable enough to know that having led coalitions, we did so in 2016 in Johannesburg, where we brought parties together, and those lasted. You will be speaking to Mr. Mashaba, and in all fairness, he would know that actually he didn't resign because the coalition collapsed. He resigned because of internal party issues. But we were able to keep parties together. And next year, I've anchored a plan, which I think we will be able to speak to coalition partners to say, here's the plan we need to deliver on, because this is not about personalities and positions. It's about what we do for the people of South Africa. Secondly, if we've got all of the votes, as described to you, even at a basic level of 2.5 million, we become the anchor party that can bring everybody together. And for every vote that we get, the more BOSA members of parliament who come from communities are in there to advance the ideas. And furthermore, I really believe the choice for next year will fall between whether you think President Ramaphosa, if he's still around, is the president, or Julius Malema, or John Steenhuisen, or myself. And I would think in that pool of four, if we all arrive with numbers, however relative they are, a government has to be formed in that. And I'm fighting hard in that space to say the values I'd stand for, the vision I have, must triumph, and I will form a coalition emerging out of that combination.
It is so crazy how Mmusi Maimane never mentioned Hemen Mashaba and Gayton Mackenzie, man. He just blue ticked them, man. He just blue ticked Action SA and Patriotic Alliance.
and lead a way that delivers on that plan.
Those 450 candidates, where are they going to stand? How are we going to know about them?
Yeah. As the election campaign obviously rolls on more, we are literally in 2 weeks' time, I'll be training them. We've got to whittle them down normally from the 458. And the qualification criteria is quite rigorous, right? They need 1,000 signatures each. They need to produce that they're ethical leaders. They need to show the fact that they represent the community. These are not people we fished out and said, here's your candidate. You may not even live there, but here's your guy. So we've been able to aggregate all of those people. We'll whittle them down to 200 national, 200 sitting across provinces. I'm comfortable enough to know that as we go to all the respective communities and all 9 provinces, each of them will then run their campaign, given their 1,000 signatures and engaging back their communities. And when the period of elections goes, you will know without a shadow of a doubt, if you are Alec living in Hermanus, you can go and say, in Hermanus, here's our candidate who's under BOSA, that's who I'm expressing my vote for, etc., etc.
So it'll be an independent candidate running under the BOSA banner.
we're bringing them all under. Because as the law that they've produced in Parliament for independence, here's the difficulty, and that's why this needs clarity. For you to become a member of Parliament, just standing on your own, and no umbrella, nothing, just standing on your own, okay? You will need about 90,000 votes, and let's wish you well. You get 120,000 votes. You get 150,000 votes. Actually, what happens after that is that at the click over at 90,000, which you can only get in the province, you only get that seat and that seat alone. And then then the rest become wasted, right? Whereas if you stand with this bossa, actually, even at 50,000, you get your seat. And secondly, now coming back to the same electoral maths I've just put before you, at 100,000 votes, which you could get more people standing in your communities. So to me, the Uber of politics, which is what we're doing, is giving that absolute political platform for communities to get direct representation and to ensure that we can get more people elected. So it's us hacking the system, if you like, and making sure that we get the best bang for buck.
There's something about mom's touch.
Hey guys, but you have to admit it is a crazy plan, because if you think about it, in our townships we have a lot of people who are so smart, and many of these people are not interested in joining like the traditional politics of the ANC, maybe the EFF, and to some extent the DA. But if Mmusi Maimane is going to give these people the chance to participate as independent members just under the umbrella of Build One South Africa, I believe that he can outsource some people who are actually smart, who do not exactly want to be under a certain political party. I think it's a brilliant strategy, man. It's a brilliant strategy, because a lot of people are not interested in anything that has to say with the ANC, the EFF, the DA, IFP, and all of that. But if you give them the chance to stand as independent, man, I think it's a brilliant plan, man. But I don't think it's going to be sufficient enough to get him to presidency. I think it's a brilliant plan. I think it can get a couple of people to parliament, maybe. But I don't think it's going to be sufficient enough for him to be the president, man.
Macron hacked the system in France, changed the way they look at politics forever. Is this a Macron moment?
It is a moment for us in the country. I would hate to compare myself to greats like Macron, and whether you like President Trump or not, but he came and swept through America. But I draw deep inspiration even from people like Hakainde Hichilema, the president of Zambia. Because what Hakainde did is that young leaders, good people, to your introduction earlier on, good people who are not these demagogues and loud and brash and racist and people who seem to portray leadership as this thing that we've got to be dictators of some sort. But citizens who actually have the right motives for people have been winning elections. And Sam Matakadza swept through Lesotho in a similar way, and I know Lesotho is a small country, but he swept through the way and said, let's offer a new thing in politics. My irritation with the current political system is not only that it isn't working for people, it's that it's stale. Go to parliament. It's like a pensioners fund. And I'm not being ageist, but we're living in a digital universe that requires new ideas for the future. And so I often jokingly say, somebody who stands up and says, I was at a conference with Oliver Tambo and we were doing together, what is that person going to tell me about the metaverse?
Exactly.
Young people are desperate for solutions about their future. Mm-hmm. So we've got to bring fresh talent to politics. And that's why, back to those candidates, one of the things I've been most grateful for is it's a mix. We've got business people in the Eastern Cape that are running multi-billion-dollar businesses. We've got lawyers and advocates. We've got former ambassadors. These are people who have come together and said, yeah, sure, some of them have been historically politicians, but they are cobbling it together to say, we represent our communities because we have a democracy that's linked to the people.
Well, what about, you mentioned him earlier, Herman Mashaba, and I am looking forward to talking to him later today, and another political party that says it's a non-political political party, which is the Patriotic Alliance. They reckon they're coming from a different place as well. Are these kindred spirits? for you, given that they are also wanting to disrupt the status quo?
I think values. Values, if we share common values, this idea of Ubuntu and dignity, we share values that are non-racial. If we share values of ethical leadership, the notion that we advocate for the citizens, those values must win. And so whatever vehicle enters that space and does that work is a vehicle you can work with. Because it doesn't matter how you square this circle. The truth of the matter is that any government next year, we have to solve for 12%. Now, the 12% comes here. If you took the current political parties, all of them, in the opposition, exclude the ANC and the EFF, you still are 12% short. If you look at the EFF's numbers, they are sub 10%, but they have a particular set of values. And whoever they work with, those values will triumph. Whatever those, and if you dislike those values, be clear. So to me, my contestation actually for next year is the values that are represented by an EFF type universe solving for their 10%, as I'm solving for the 12% that I need that produces the values that are non-racial, Ubuntu, dignity, and mixed economy. So all of those people, we've got to be able to fix for that. Because fixing for that actually will ensure that we've got stability in government and values for the future. Because we can't just look at this election in isolation as 2024 to 2029, etc. Because there's still a country that we've got to govern post-2024. And I would hate to find myself in a space where, sure, you change the electoral maths, but the governing infrastructure remains the same and the values remain the same. And then you end up with people who want to say, well, the Constitution is a farce, Mandela is a farce, all of those values. I cannot buy that. And I cannot accept racial mobilization. That's why we talk about Build One South Africa. So my job is to fix for that 12%. And I'm calling on South Africans. This is, you've got to bring those values to the table by voting for like Build One South Africa, because we'll bring people together for those values.
Hey, but guys, Mmusi Maimane is an amazing speaker, man. I feel like voting for Build One South Africa in 2024, man. I'm telling you, I feel like voting for Mmusi Maimane, man, in 2024. I believe in everything that he's saying, man. I believe in some of these things that he's saying. I just don't believe that it is loud enough. I believe that maybe if he can, for some reason, find a way to use maybe his social media platform more to make these statements and to make sure that he's engaging with people out there, I believe that he can do something. But for now, in terms of marketing his own party, I don't think that he has done enough. And it's crazy because he has these craziest and these beautiful ideas. I love the way he talks, man. If you can give this guy a chance, a lot of people are actually going to vote for Mmusi Maimane, man. Just imagine if Mmusi Maimane gets more votes than John Steenhuisen. You remember how the DA treated Mmusi Maimane after he left, and now they have John Steenhuisen. I don't think that John Steenhuisen is going to be the death of that party, man.
Mmusi, last question: why is Build One South Africa not emerging on the opinion polls or the pollsters? When they do their numbers, they say the ANC is perhaps at 47 and the DA at 27, etc. And when you go down the list, the best that anybody outside of the EFF can do is 4 or 5%. And clearly, you guys aren't even coming up there yet.
No, part of it is obviously, well, we've got to look at it two ways. People follow people, right? So before you follow a party, you follow someone. You follow a leader of a party. And I'm comfortable to know that of the top...
Mmusi Maimane loves this line, man. He loves this line. Mmusi Maimane loves this line. People follow people, man. People follow people. People follow the Sekele Ramaphosa.
Leaders in the country. And of all the ones that are active, I'm still one of the top ones in opposition. Ahead of... so you kind of, if you had to do a ranking, it's President Mbeki at the top, and then you get President Ramaphosa, and then you get President Zuma, and then after that you get this cluster between myself, Helen Zille, and Julius Malema. That's why. So the starting point is that people follow people, and I am comfortable enough that we've grown on all our platforms, social media activism because people have been following Mmusi Maimane. And at the end of the day, it's why I want to run and show people that we could lead this country, and that's why I'm asking for them to do that. So that's the first opinion poll that we've got to think through. Who can lead? Because it doesn't matter what the new upstart is, it doesn't matter. It's whether citizens can say, I can get behind that leader because he has a vision for this country. And then the second hard work that we are having to do, and I think closer to an election will become more and more, is the association between that and Build One South Africa. And as a political party, and I'll be upfront here, that's the hard work that we're trying to link those two things, because people need to know how to find Mmusi Maimane on the ballot.
Man.
If it were easy just to stand as a presidential candidate, we'd do that, and we'd work with multiple candidates. But the truth is,
Man, I've never even saw a bossa banner, man, anywhere. I've never saw a bossa banner anywhere. I've never seen that, man. I don't think even average South Africans know how to get hold of bossa, man. Average South Africans, they don't know how to get hold of one or of Build One South Africa. We don't know where their offices are. We've never seen a banner of them. We've never seen their interviews. The only person who's doing the interviews is Mmusi Maimane. It would be so nice if he would allow some of these people under the Build One South Africa banner to go out there to do interviews, man. Make these people go out there, go to the SABC, go to ENCA, do interviews, do everything, man. Because it's almost like right now, the only person who's doing all of these interviews is Mmusi Maimane. Where is everyone else, man? How do we get hold of Bossa, man? Even where I'm living right now, I don't know where Bossa is. I've never seen a banner of Bossa. I've never seen anything that says Bossa, man. So I think Mmusi Maimane, man, really needs to work hard in terms of making his party accessible. His party, it is not accessible, man.
People have to find a place, and so Build One South Africa is that place, and they'll be able to find it on the platform, and we're building onto that. So that's the journey.
Your friend H.H. Hichelema showed it is possible, and what he did in Zambia. I wasn't aware of the Lesotho story, but that's another one to look at. And Mmusi, thank you again for giving us your vision.
So guys, what do you think about this interview? What do you think about Build One South Africa? Do you believe that Mmusi Maimane actually has a chance of becoming the president of South Africa next year? Do you believe that Mmusi Maimane has done enough when it comes to marketing his own political party? Please tell me on the comment section. Don't forget to hit that like button, and the most important part, guys, please subscribe. My name is Thomas Mabaso, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.